I'm Camille Vidal. I'm the founder of La Maison Wellness. I'm a Know and Law expert, and I'm the host of the Know and Law Embassy as I stepped in my new role with BCB Worldwide to bring education and inspiration for the Know and Law category. So this is year one, and I'm really excited. We've got amazing panelists throughout the day. We've got amazing talk and tasting. And so on the table, you have quite a lot going on. Yes, quite a lot going on. So you have a Negroni, feel free to sip that as we talk. And for the rest of the samples, we will talk about it together. But first, let me introduce you to, I feel like if you know the Know and Know category, you already know her, Laura Willoughby, who is a force behind the Mindful Drinking movement, the founder of Club Soda, the founder of now the Drinks Academy, who was originally behind the Mindful Drinking Festival, who is now organizing the Know and Know Summit, which is happening in a couple of weeks.
Yes, it's a busy few weeks. It's a busy October.
But Laura has been really a pioneer in pushing the category forward to consumer, to brand, to the trade, all across to really raise the bar for Know and Know. So the idea of the session today is to give you a bit of an understanding of what is the Know and Know category, because I think that it is one that is still a bit hard to navigate.
And it's changing and evolving all the time.
Rapidly. And so it's to give you a little bit of an insight of what is the Know and Know category, who are the consumer, who are the guests, how it is changing, and then to really dive into what's a mimic / an analog, what is new to wave and what do we consider as new to wave, what is functional and what does it look like, and then we will do some tasting of some of the amazing brands partner that we have part of the Know and Know Embassy this year, which are obvious. If you've never tried, this is an incredible brand from Belgium, absolutely delicious. We have Giffard, which you probably know, been making liqueurs for years and years and years, and they have launched a couple of years ago their non-alcoholic liqueurs. And then we have Juniper, also a French brand, which is, they have loads of alternatives to gin, to bitter, spirits, rum, etc. So we will dive into the range.
Excellent. And I'm really glad to have Camille here as well, because one thing you would never want me to do is to make you a cocktail. I'm not actually drinks by background. I've actually got politics and campaigning background. So whenever you speak to me, I'm all about the systems change that we're going through and how we can make alcohol-free more available and present. So I'm going to give you a little bit of data while you sip your Negroni, but I'm also really happy if you want to interrupt us as we go along, if you've got questions that are pertinent to the presentation or at a point in time, just wave your hand and we'll take your question. So just so you know, so Club Soda's actually been going 10 years. We predate alcohol-free on the market in the UK, and the UK was one of the first markets to grow alcohol-free. So Heineken Zero launched in 2017, which is when we did our first festival. But we actually did a big report to the industry in 2015 about how to make pubs and bars more welcoming to people who don't drink anymore or don't want to drink today. And that's what started me on this journey of talking about low and no alcohol drinks. It still amazes me today that I have become an expert in drinks. It's quite mad. But we currently have a shop in Covent Garden, a tasting room, which is the home of Low and Low in the UK. It's not a typical retail space, it's actually an education space in collaboration with all the brands, and we are currently running our academy there at the moment, which we've got senior buyers from supermarkets on. And also some of our best sellers are in Majestic, which is the biggest wine store in the UK. And so this is our academy. That was our first grouping. So if anybody's interested in doing a 2-day deep dive into Low and Low, there's a postcard on your table. Do come and talk to me. I am very passionate about educating as many people as possible about the category. Now, I just wanted to give you a little bit of snapshot on where we are across Europe, I guess, in terms of alcohol-free. So alcohol-free is still growing. It still looks to be alcohol-free, be 4% of total alcohol sales by 2027. And each year we get a lot of new entrants to the category. And at the minute, globally, 20% of 2023 consumers were new entrants. So you may think you've heard loads about Low and No, and you're a little bit bored of it now, and you think there's lots of products, but actually to most consumers, it's all still really new. So I have to continually remind myself that most people don't know about alcohol-free. And the top 10 markets at the minute that are growing, just to highlight some of the ones in Europe. So France is one of the biggest growth markets for alcohol-free in Europe at the moment. You'll see there's probably about 30 alcohol-free shops in France at the moment. It's quite mental. Every time I tell someone in Britain that alcohol-free is going big in France, they just look at disbelief. Germany and Spain have always been quite big markets, but they're still growing. And then Australia, the US, Canada are all big growth markets. But Europe is really beginning to wake up, and particularly around Spain and France and Germany. Now, you will know that in Germany and Spain, there's always been lots of alcohol-free beer. Alcohol-free beer is 10% of the beer market, for example, in France and Germany. So they are beginning to grow, but their growth is a bit slower, maybe a little less innovation, particularly around the beer space. At the minute, if you go to Spain, the beer will not be a brand beer, it will just be an alcohol-free beer on the menus. There's a little bit of work to do. But again, Japan's got steady growth. UK's got really strong momentum. That's because we're such big drinkers to begin with. It's really obvious now we're not drinking so much. And the USA and Canada are growing. So if you've got a brand like these great brands here, there are some really exciting markets to target. Thank you. But what I want to stress to you is this isn't the fact that everybody's going teetotal. This is actually about moderation. And for you in the drinks industry, I think it's fascinating, because what it means is that when people are deciding not to drink, but when they do decide to drink, they are upgrading their alcohol offer, so they're premiumising when they buy alcohol. So the supermarkets in the UK are finding people who buy Low and No still spend as much on alcohol as they used to, but they're now spending it on a nicer alcohol. So they're saving their spending for their best alcohol at the best place with their best friends. So I think it's a really interesting shift in consumer behaviour. So 37% across globally, our consumers are drinking less alcohol than they were a year ago. 64% of consumers in top 10 markets are moderating, and the proportion of US adults who report not drinking is the lowest since prohibition, basically. So it's a big global shift. I want to move it on another one. But people still want to go out. So like I said, they want to premiumise the alcohol, all their alcohol-free that they're drinking, because it's all about quality of experience. 26% of people globally plan to use the on-premise more in the following years than they were doing before. And in the UK, 66% of people say it's because they want to spend time with friends. Drinking alcohol has fallen right down the list. So basically, the strength of the drink in your glass is no longer the star of the show. It's all about experience. And you may have noticed that people go out to a place that have got a really interesting food offer, or they've got a really interesting, like you could play crazy golf or darts or any of those things, or they've got amazing desserts. If you told me that in Soho there'd be dessert shops open till 1 in the morning when I first moved to London 30 years ago, I would have thought you were having a laugh. It's all part of that same experience-based culture, but when people go out, they want equality of experience, whether they're drinking alcohol or whether they're drinking alcohol-free. And people have got different strategies. Some people are taking nights off, school nights, as people would say in the UK. Some people are just going out totally and not drinking if they have food. Some people are taking breaks from drinking. So there's lots of different strategies people are using. You won't necessarily know what they are. 3 dominant strategies in the UK. Zebra striping, which is alternating alcohol with alcohol-free. This phrase has just hit, the newspapers are talking about this all the time. So this has become a mainstream comment around the shift in drinking culture.
And to jump on that, it's quite interesting because I've heard some bartenders and some industry people saying, but we've been doing that forever, like this is not new. But what I think is really exciting is the fact that we're naming it and we're bringing it mainstream. And by actually naming it, we're giving the tools to the consumer to be able to moderate.
Yeah.
We really see that there is a demand, that there is a real drive for it, but what the consumer and the guest don't know is how can they moderate.
And also it was moderating between, particularly in the UK, alcohol and then tap water. And I can tell you nobody makes any money out of tap water. I know that you're more likely to sell bottled water in mainland Europe, but upgrading people from something that they don't pay for or something of very low margin to something that will keep them there all evening is a really important part of that journey. And again, remember, it's about a quality of experience. Water isn't always sharing the same experience.
And we actually quantified in the UK the amount of money that is lost every single year from bars and restaurants not upselling. We're not in an industry of tap water. We are here to provide an experience. And I think that like what sometimes bars and restaurants are missing is the business opportunity in the no and low category in increasing the sale for your guests. People will stay longer, will drink more, will alternate and spend more money, and that's what we want, you know.
Yeah, it's £800 million a year we lose in the UK to people just drinking tap water when they're out. 20% of people are coasting. Now, for those of you who might be interested in the emerging mid-strength category, this is about having lower strength beers around 2%, lower strength spirits at around 20, 15%, lower strength wines at around 7-8%, and mid-strength cocktails. Because people now are very wise, they can have the same number of drinks, but half the amount of alcohol they have. That's an emerging category, and that's coasting. And then 30% of people are really happy now to go out and not drink on an evening out, which for Britain in particular is quite a big ask, because, you know, we used to see everything through the lens of booze on an evening out. So the fact that it's now quite normal to go out and not drink is quite amazing, and really important for us saving our pubs and bars. So, if you don't have a good choice of alcohol-free drinks, people do vote with their feet and they will leave early. We know that 44% of consumers in the UK look at the Google menus or the menu on a website before they go out. And if they're going out in groups, they will also make sure that the venue has got the vegan option for their vegan friend, the alcohol-free option for their alcohol-free friend, and if there isn't something, they will go to a different location. So people will leave a venue early if they are disappointed by the low and no, and they do think having good low and no enhances their social experience. So again, I always bring you back to that quality of experience. Look at that cocktail on your table. That's as good a cocktail as an alcoholic cocktail, presented beautifully in the same way with lots of thought. That's what's really important.
Which means that like for maybe even some of you, you feel like that in your bar, in your restaurant, you don't have a huge demand for non-alcoholic. First of all, that's probably because you don't have an offer and it's not on your menu. But what often we don't realize is what I call the hidden part of the iceberg, which is the influence of the mindful drinker on the group. So you might think, oh, it's only really rare that someone asks for an non-alcoholic option. But what you don't realize is the people leaving sooner and the people not even considering coming to your venue because you don't have a non-alcoholic option.
And venues that have increased their options tell us that they have increased their group booking substantially. So that's a good angle. Well, we've got some figures about that near the end. And so just to put this in context, in the UK, and this will not be dissimilar elsewhere, 7% of the UK are vegetarian. You'd never have a food menu without loads of really good veggie options, would you? But 16% of the UK population are alcohol-free, yet often the choices are really, really poor. So it's about rebalancing your menu. Now, of course, if you add on to that 16%, just as you would with the vegetarians, the fact that some people will be flexitarian, prefer to not eat meat tonight, equally, there'll be people who don't want to drink tonight because they want to make more of their gym membership. Or as we hear a lot from younger people, they've booked so many experiences over the weekend, they don't want to miss any of them, so they're reducing how much they drink because they want to make the paddleboarding on a Saturday morning. And like, I was a captain of a spaceship a few weeks ago. If you ever come to London, go to Bridge Command. I was the captain, I was really terrible at it. Everyone ignored all of my instructions, but it was an amazing experience. I paid £70 for that. Now, everyone would love to have that sort of money coming in on an evening. But you know, if we're paying money to go to the theatre, to go to a musical, those things, you don't want to miss it to a hangover anymore. And so people are moderating in order to do more. So there's more money for you to take if you've got experiences, great food, great menus.
And people have expectation. We have served crappy mocktail for too long.
But by crappy mocktail, some shit juices all mixed together into some sweet, sickly, crappy thing. Is that it? That's the official words.
That is the definition. And so I think that by making sure that not only we have option but good option, we are ensuring that people will order more, will come back, and that we're rebuilding the trust with our guests, because for too long it wasn't good enough. And so now the issue that we have is them not believing that it can be that good. The number one comment that I get when I make a cocktail, a non-alcoholic cocktail to a guest is, oh my God, I would never have thought that this is alcohol free. And the second is, and it's not sweet.
Yes. And the first thing people say when they come into our shop is there such a thing as a good alcohol-free red wine? The answer is yes, and I love surprising people with that. So let's take you through what you've got on your table. So you've just had a Negroni, which is made by French brand Juniper. They've been around since 2018. Is it
2020, I think.
Oh, it might be a little bit more before that, anyway.
They worked from the beginning.
Yeah,
The beginning of
really early.
Yeah.
And they're in what I'd call in that mimic and analog space. So they've got replicas of drinks that you would expect to taste. So their Juniper number one is, Juniper gives you a clue, doesn't it? That it's a gin replacement. It's high on juniper, so it's beautiful botanical. And so that's in the Negroni. It's also got their vermouth equivalent, which I know sells brilliantly well in the Spanish market. And then it's got their bitter in it as well.
Exactly. And so for the full range, and what I find really interesting about the brand is, this is the brand Juniper. They decided to remove the vowels of the brand the same way that they removed the alcohol, which is hilarious and amazing. And so this is Juniper, and they have 3 different gin alternatives. And what I find really interesting in the mimic and the analog is often people will say, but it doesn't taste exactly the same, and it shouldn't, because it isn't. So
Because it's not nearly half of it isn't made up of alcohol.
But I think what's really interesting is to see what is the resemblance, what reminds you of the world of gin, what botanicals do you get through the juniper, the rosemary, all of this, the lemon peel, all of this that comes through that reminds you of that world. And I think that every category in the no and low is unique and is needed. And for some people, the mimic and the analog is a good alternative. They want to reduce the amount they drink, or they don't drink at all, but they still love a Paloma. They still love a dark and stormy. They love a margarita. And with this category, they are able to have the cocktails that they enjoy. Does it taste exactly the same that the alcoholic version? No, it doesn't. But first, as we've both been judging IWC World Alcohol Free Awards, and we've seen the evolution of the quality of some of the spirit. Some of them are craft, some of them are brand jumping on the wagon of the no and low category, putting no craft, no passion, no savoir-faire into it. But some of them are really incredible. And this category is growing, and some of the products, as you can see, are getting medals and doing really well. And
so yeah, and I think what's really important for a lot of bar chains, pub chains, food service places is they don't have a bartender who's designing their own cocktails. They're making classic cocktails, and what's really great about this category is it allows them to replace the alcoholic spirit with the alcohol-free spirit and still make the same cocktail really easily. Consumers love it, it's easy to recognise. And these are all brands that you will be able to find here at the show. Do go and try the Sober Spirits Amaretti. It's really amazing. And the Rosso from Rebels is really great. And the Havan's have just brought out this sort of oaky, rummy type drink. But again, beautiful botanicals designed to drink like the alcoholic counterparts you know. They're not exactly the same. They've all got their own unique characteristics, as you would expect. But they are all delicious.
And I think what's also really interesting is to understand that like those products are made in a very similar way that you will make the alcoholic version with different type of distillation, of hydrodistillation, maceration, distillate, depending on which one. Some of them even de-alkalize the product that they're making. And so for me, it's about understanding that this category allowed us to bring those classic cocktails back to life. I'm someone who don't believe that just a one-to-one replacement is going to cut it. I actually think that this allows you to bring complexity and more of an adult-like palette into cocktails, but I do think we have to revisit the spec and the measurement in order to really find the right balance. But I also think that the consumer is really looking for a bit of a familiar environment. Everything is in the low and low category is new. They're trying to understand what to order. They don't really know brand because there's not that many brands that are, the same way that people will say, I want a Gregor's Martini. Like this hasn't really happened yet. A few brands are doing that, like Botivo maybe.
But also there's a whole lot of customers who don't know what alcohol tastes like. So the Middle East is a massive market for this, but they don't know what a gin and tonic is or how you're meant to drink a gin and tonic. So we're actually still having to educate around, what this sort of product, how it's drunk. They don't have any of those alcohol cues to go with it. But for Western consumers, those alcohol cues that we've learnt over generations and millennia are really helpful for guiding people into this very new category.
And same for younger generation. I mean, we see that Gen Z drinks less than any of the generation previously. And so they don't have the same talent, they don't have the same, I've been drinking Negronis for 20 years, this is not, etc.
They're like sweet and sour, because they've been eating sweet and sour fizzy sweets all their lives. Who knew? Sour.
And so for the juniper and what we've been using in the Negroni, I also believe that it's important for those mimic to not taste them on their own. They weren't designed to be tasted on their own, and they are really brought to life when you make a cocktail, when you mix it with a mixer, and so that's why we wanted to make the Negroni for you. So that is really what we call the mimic and the analog, and so those will be alternative to something alcoholic that already exists. So we're looking at gin, we're looking at an alternative to a bit of sweet aperitif like Aperol,
Vermouth, Amaretti,
we're
there's
looking
a
at
bit of
like
everything.
alcoholic rum. So those are what we will call the mimic/the analogs.
Cool. Well, let's go on to modifiers, because this is more your territory, because you know how to make cocktails, Camille. Do you want to tell people which one of their drinks is the Giffard?
So the first line is Giffard, which is a French liqueur company. You would have, the first one is elderflower. So you start from the bottom, so the closest to you. The first one is elderflower, the second one is grapefruit, the third is pineapple, and the last one is ginger, and keep it for the last one because the ginger's got a bit of a kick. And so when we look at modifier, for me modifier is a very exciting category in the drinks in general, alcohol, no alcohol, because this is really what brings to life your cocktail, what's bring and add flavor and really allow you to become creative with what you're tasting. Giffard obviously has been making liqueurs since the early 1940s. And so they have a real savoir-faire in how to make delicious liqueurs. They realized that the best way to extract flavor after alcohol was vinegar. We've all made a shrub before, but the way that they do it that is different than a shrub is instead of macerating the fruit or the flowers into sugar, which is the way that you make a shrub, you make an oleosaccharum, they macerate it in vinegar, which allow you to extract the flavor in a bigger way, in a brighter way, and then they will mix it with some sugar. In terms of sugar content, it's 3 to 4 times less than a syrup, and you don't have that like really really shrubby vinegar that comes through, yet you have a little acidity that comes at the back, will allow you to create that structure in the non-alcoholic cocktail. So feel free to do a little bit of a tasting through and really making your way through the elderflower, the grapefruit, the pineapple, and the ginger. But I got really excited when I joined them to work with them on this range, because I do think that this is again about elevating the experience for a non-alcoholic cocktail. And too often, a non-alcoholic cocktail has very much of a not an adult profile in terms of tasting. It feels like a blend of juices, it's lacking complexity, it's lacking flavor altogether. And I do think that like by adding those modifiers, then you can really start layering the flavor. And I think that what Giffard does so well is by having that vinegar as a base, then that allows to have a little bit of a structure.
Then you'll see there's things like, some of you may know Jimber, which is from Belgium. Again, our consumers love this because it's a big punchy, big punch of ginger, and it allows them to put it in lots of drinks to give them the heat that they're missing, so particularly for making cocktails at home. And then Camille tells me bitters aren't a modifier, but I wanted to put them in because there are a number of 0.0 bitters coming through. Now, I don't think having a 0.0 bitter is essential, because obviously once you dilute a bitters, it disappears into hardly anything. But it does give you different options, particularly if you want to, serve a consumer that may not drink for religious reasons or other reasons, to make sure that every ingredient is 0.0. And these guys, all the bitter from the States, are absolutely stunning.
And it's really interesting because if we were looking at this category, some of them will probably be the mimic, the analog. I mean, if you look at Giffard, they do have a grapefruit liqueur that is alcoholic, they have an elderflower liqueur that is alcoholic. If you look at the bitters, they actually build their range onto the classic range. So there's something that is like an Angostura but alcohol-free, something that is like a passion bitter but alcohol-free, and then they created some more creative and unique like lavender, etc. But it's interesting to see how Jimber is probably something that is, unique and different. So in this category, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
I put it in my hot chocolate, to be honest, so, it has many uses.
Delicious. But to go back into the bitter, yes, 0.5 is what we consider as non-alcoholic, but there's also guests that are a bit more specific, and so having the option of having non-alcoholic bitters and being able to really confidently talk about it, some people won't be comfortable in having 2 dashes of Angostura bitter in their non-alcoholic cocktail. I am, and I know that you are, but a lot of people might not be, and so being able to say, that's okay, I can just replace it with something that is alcohol-free, now that we have an option, for me is really important.
Cool. So then let's move on so that you can try the Opius in front of you. There are things that we call new wave, or things that aren't direct replicas, and there's a lot more of these coming through. So some of you may have seen Petivo in the UK, which is made from, it's basically an oxymel. It's made from vinegar and honey. It takes a year to make. They steep and macerate all the ingredients in vinegar for a whole year to make this. It's incredibly punchy because of that. Lovely acidity, and a little goes a long way. There's twice as many portions in this. And we're finding that bartenders are using it for alcoholic and alcohol-free cocktails. The same with Everleaf, which has got 3 expressions. It's the biggest independent spirit, alcohol-free spirit in the on-trade in the UK. Not a direct replica at all, but, lots of beautiful ingredients, high-quality ingredients. And then we've got Opius as well, which you can tell us a little bit more about.
I feel like we should get Luca, who's standing at the back, the founder. But Opius is one of my favorite products that is available. I think what's really, really interesting is how unique it is. And, for some people, they will think that like new wave is kind of, really what we're trying to achieve and what is exciting in the no category. And I will agree with that, but I do think that like there is a need for the mimic, that there is a need for the new wave. But what's really exciting about new wave is how we kind of stepping out of what we know, and we're just focusing on flavor, on rituals, on creating something that is really unique. So Opus is a Belgian brand.
So what have they got in front of them? Which row is it?
I'm gonna explain. So Opus is a Belgian brand, and they have 4 at the moment. I'm sure they're bringing some more.
Which one is it then? Sorry, you were asking.
I'm about to explain. No, it's very excited.
No, is it this row? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, sorry. Yes, so you had, the first one was the Giffard, the second one is that whole row, that's your Opus. Starting from the one closest. But which one is it? So starting from the one the closest to you, the one that is clear. If you have a smell, this is your beautiful Albedo. We started with this one because this one has probably a lighter and a more delicate profile. And so you would have those beautiful notes of aniseed, a little bit of citrus, is really fragrant. So we started from the bottom, from this one, all the way up. And so you see that, like, you can't really place it. Is it a liqueur? Is it a modifier? Is it a vermouth? Is it something? And for me, that's what's really exciting because it means that it has so much potential to it. You can have it simply with tonic water as a mixed drink. You can use it in a Negroni. You can use it in a stir drink. You can add it to a shaken cocktail to add some complexity. You can really add this beautiful notes and flavor to add that complexity that you want in a cocktail. The second one that you're gonna have, this is the Amaro. So this is more of a citrus forward, beautiful. Again, this is not an Amaro in the sense of like, we know, like a very herbaceous. This is more of like a beautiful citrusy. And again, you can add it simply with tonic water. You can have it in the spritz with some non-alcoholic sparkling wine. You can add it onto your stir and cocktail. You can add it to so many different directions, and it doesn't have just one purpose to it. And then you will move on to the Rubedo, which there you have maybe a bit more of like what we see a bit more in the no and low category. You have more bitterness coming through, more of like that bittersweet characteristic, without the sweetness, without the heaviness. And again, they're not one profile, they really have so many layers to it, which makes it so exciting to use in a cocktail. And then last but not least, because I'm a big fan.
They also look lovely on the back bar, I have to say.
They are
Beautiful
beautiful. You've got Negredo, and there you're entering a whole different flavor profile. You would have much more of that coffee, toffee, caramel coming through. And so you can really see that like the whole range will be really, really different and added so many different flavors to it. So the last one is this one is the darkest.
What was your favourites, guys, out of those? Who's got one?
The third.
Which one? Third?
The third one.
Yeah, the third one. Amazing. Rubedo.
Yeah.
It's like that nice bitterness.
I really like the first one, but it makes it such a unique taste in Britain anyway to have that aniseedy style taste.
And again, if you want to dive more into how it's made, but you know, it's very similar. You have different techniques from distillate to hydro distillation to maceration. It takes 4 weeks to make. And for me, that really shows that like we're not just into, I'm just going to remove the alcohol of something that is already made. It's how can we build a profile of something really unique that allows to bring amazing flavor into the drinks, because that's what we want. We want good drinks. And what we realized is the ABV, the alcohol contents in the glass, doesn't matter as much as we maybe thought it was on some of the time.
Absolutely. So finally, and you haven't got any of these to taste, but functional drinks are on the rise massively, and in the alcohol-free space in particular. Because of course, when you're drinking alcohol-free, you know that you're not drinking alcohol, which is obviously the traditional mood enhancer that we've been used to as a society. So sometimes having something with a functional ingredient deals with people's loss aversion from not drinking. So most of you will know that obviously CBD is a popular, lots of RTDs in particular in the CBD space allows you to make great cocktails using them as a lengthener. But there are other things as well. So for example, Free Spirit, and these don't taste like anything else, they're not a replica of anything else, but they make liveness, social and nightcap. They sell massively in the UK, and in the States they've all gone a bit bonkers. If you want to look at a social media handle for an alcohol-free brand, they've got over 100,000 followers. It's quite something. But they're made using natural ingredients, and basically, if I'd made them in the 1400s, I'd have been hung as a witch. I think that's basically what's in these bottles, because this is all natural sources of caffeine, so it's got lots of natural ingredients. My favourite is the nightcap, which has got valerian, licorice root, lemon balm in. I sell it to lots of people who want a whiskey, but this doesn't taste like a whiskey. It's but it replaces that digestive moment. You can have it just on a piece of ice at the evening before you go to bed. It really does help you sleep. To be fair, I drink it straight from the bottle, but don't tell Free Spirit that. But they are doing something else for people, and it's got added value and added benefits, and so they become a premium product in people's eyes.
And I think what's really interesting when we dive into the functional category is it's not just looking at removing alcohol or building flavor, it's also what benefits can we add. And so when Free Spirits looked at designing their range, they were like, why do people drink? Okay, maybe people drink because they want to relax, maybe they have a bit of social anxiety. And so they created the social elixir, which is the one in the middle, which has ashwagandha and other ingredients that are there to really help you to mellow down. Then they look at people also drink because they want to go out, they want to go dance on the dance floor, they want energy, and so they have.
We have this on our shots menu, to be fair, and I like a shot of Livener, but it also goes beautifully in a cocktail.
And because it has natural caffeine and that spicy hit of the chili, then this is more uplifting. And the nightcap has valerian root, which helps you with sleep, maple syrup, more of a
and a big
nightcap
kick of ginger at the end, isn't
and a
it?
little bit. And so same with like Smiling Wolf. There's a brand in the UK called Wildlife Botanicals, which is dealcoholized wine, where they added vitamins, minerals, adaptogen, and nootropics. And so the idea will be not only you're having an alcohol-free glass of wine, you're also taking your vitamins and having supplements that are helping you to feel more relaxed, etc. So it's a really interesting category. It's one that we see growing more rapidly in the US because they're a bit more used to CBD, THC, because it's legalized in like some of the states, so they're a bit more familiar with this. But I do think that there's a lot of potential for the functional.
We've got some research coming out of the conference actually, but functional is the biggest growth area. The supermarkets in the UK are beginning to give more space to drinks for and basically putting drinks by need state. So there will be drinks that are there to wake you up, there'll be drinks that are there to rehydrate you, which of course beer goes into as well, by the way, if it's alcohol free. Then they're looking all the way through anything with mushrooms in. So adaptogenics for your body, nootropics for your brain are going to be really big, and I think we'll see this a lot more across the whole of Europe as time goes on. But anything with functional mushrooms in sells really well.
And it's really becoming mainstream. I mean, I was on my way here at London Gatwick Airport, and I went to a coffee shop at the airport, and what I was ordering, it says, would you like to add lion's mane for focus? And I was like, hell yeah. But it really shows, and it's really becoming more mainstream and part of the norm. And so, yes, there is so much education that needs to be done in the no and low category in general, and even more in functional, but I do think that there is an appetite for it and the real growth and potential for it.
And actually we sell, our functional cocktails sell 2-to-1 to non-functional cocktails.
Yeah.
So, cool. And then what I wanted to do is to make you understand how versatile these things are, because you'll have a lot of alcohol on your menu. You probably don't have to think about versatility in the same way. And so when you're first exploring your alcohol-free range, you might want to think about how other ingredients allow you to expand your menu. So for example, if you've got a really good sparkling wine on your menu that you can offer by the glass, that also makes a really good lengthener for a cocktail. That means you're more likely to get through that bottle, particularly as you begin to grow this category in your venue. So looking at products that will allow you to make multiple drinks, multiple SKUs, means that you can have a bigger alcohol-free menu than it appears at first glance. And equally, if you've got really good alcohol-free spirits, they help you make mid-strength cocktails because you can take out one of the ingredients, put in a alcohol-free spirit instead, and then lower the ABV of that cocktail so that you can give somebody that coasting experience.
Absolutely, and I think that's probably what has changed the most in the category. I mean, I launched my business in 2017, and I feel like at that time it was a bit, you were a non-drinker or you were a drinker, and has been like it's out of the window now. People are moderating, people are trying to explore that mid-strength, and we see it in like, I think it's the slide after, like in bars and restaurants. I mean, Sexy Fish has now a menu that has non-alcoholic, full strength, and the option to also make mixed strength cocktails. So you can have your cocktail three ways. If you want it with no alcohol at all, if you want it with a mid strength, halfway through, and then full strength. So I think we really, the knowing your category can also help you to achieve that. You can replace your sparkling wine with non-alcoholic sparkling wine in your spritz. You can use, vermouth or bitter into your Negroni to reduce the amount of alcohol that goes. You can keep your gin and just do that. So it's about really embracing the category, using it for the flavor, but also for a way to reduce the amount of alcohol that goes into the glass.
And that versatility allows you to have a bigger menu. So I've just done a menu for a small theatre. They've only got 2 alcohol-free spirits and a sparkling wine on that menu, but we've managed to design them 5 different cocktails. Then, of course, they've got the sparkling wine by the glass as well. They're a small bar. That means that all of those products are working for them.
And just to add on to that, one non-alcoholic cocktail on your menu is not enough. It feels like it's the same. I always say if you go to a wine bar and you only have red, white, and rosé, you're not going to look at them, except if it's in East London and it's really hipster, but you're not going to look at them as experts. And so by having multiple options, first, you assert yourself as expert in the category, and so instantly people trust more. But also people are going to stay longer. If I go out and I have, oh yes, there's one non-alcoholic cocktail, great. I order it once. Maybe if I'm having a great time, I'll order it a second time, but I'm definitely not going to order a third time. And so most likely I'm going to say to my friend, let's go somewhere else. I'm a bit bored of drinking the same thing. So having multiple options and doing it in a really smart way, like Laura just said, is the best way to build a low-end offering for your bars and restaurants.
So just to say, so we've put this up. So Soho House has worked really hard to design an amazing alcohol-free menu, and being Soho House, they've also made a little movie for social media. But I think that might be beyond everyone else. But they've looked at everyone's need state. So if you go into Soho House in the morning, you'll find they've got hydration sodas, they've got CBD sodas, and then throughout the day you can change what it is that you're drinking, and by the evening they've got a massive range of alcohol-free and mid-strength cocktails. They've got alcohol-free wines on the menu to make sure they've covered all of their bases. So they've thought really carefully through their range.
Seems like someone was really good at advising them. I really wonder who.
And then there's a place called, if anyone's been to Inception Group venues in the UK, they run Cahoots, which has got experience-based bars. They've got Mr. Fogg's, they've got a bar that's like a tube station, one that's a post office, where your cocktails come in an old post office too. It's incredibly exciting. 40% of their menu is alcohol-free. And they will tell you that every time they get a group booking, and particularly if they get a Christmas booking from a corporate, the first thing that they're asked now is about what alcohol-free have you got? Because this ultimately is an inclusion piece, right? Everybody who's organising anything for work will want to make sure that everybody in their team is included. It will be in their policies for their business. They don't want all of their staff getting really, really pissed and ending up in A&E. So, that is the first thing that HR asks now when they book a location. So they tell me that Christmas, biggest time for alcohol-free in Cahoots. And then we already talked about Sexy Fish, but their menu is literally half and half, and then the ability to mid-strength as well. 35 to 40% of their cocktail sales are now alcohol-free. So by putting in that work, they're increasing their sales, not only of alcohol-free, but they're increasing their margin and the money they take at the till. Because at the end of the day, if somebody just orders a bottle of sparkling water, that would be it for the night. But keeping people drinking cocktails at a place they're really proud of is a big part of what they do, and they're really happy to talk about it as well. So finally, if any of you are in London or Amsterdam next year, the summit that we do is all about building this category, and for me, about the social impact of this category. So how do we continue to grow it so that it's visible, available, and therefore people can adopt it? It means that we're more or less likely to get into a pickle with alcohol in the longer term, but we still get to go out and have amazing social experiences. And I'm always looking for really good speakers. So if any of you are really proud of your alcohol-free range, then come and tell me. And that's it. We do the 2-day academy. We're really passionate about teaching everybody or sharing information. So if you've got good examples yourself, do let me know. Or do speak to Camille, because we both love sharing really good practice as well.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, for learning about the category. Hopefully that was helpful to understand what is mimic/analog, what is new wave, but also a bigger picture of where is the category at, how can we do better. I think that we still have quite a bit of a way to go in normalizing non-alcoholic option and low ABV option in bars and restaurants around the world, in raising the bar of the quality of what we're offering, and really understanding the category and what is really outstanding in the category, and hopefully you tasted some today.
And let us know what you need in order to make the case in your venue, or just for you, if you want to become an advocate in this space, then let me have your details. I really want to build that network of people who really understand, really enjoy, and are real strong advocates for this category, and you're all part of that, because you've now met us.
Absolutely. If you have any questions, maybe come and have a chat. We do have a quite packed schedule in this room today for the No and No Embassy at BCB. So next we would have a panel, a really interesting panel on more inclusive language when it comes to sober curious guests, because I do think that we still have a lot to work on how we can be more inclusive. We then have an amazing wine tasting on non-alcoholic wine with Jörg Geiger. We will go through the range and really looking at how it's not just about removing alcohol, but how can we build flavor, complexity, enjoyment, food pairing with non-alcoholic wine. And then last but not least, we have an amazing panel this afternoon which is called Not a Fucking Mocktail, about how to make non-alcoholic cocktails that don't suck, because we've got a bit of work to do, and we have amazing bartenders from all around the world that will share their tips and tricks on how they make great non-alcoholic cocktails. So spend the day with us here, really. But otherwise, come and have a chat. Thank you so much for your time. A big thanks to our brand partner, Jennifer Gifa, and Opus for bringing this to life. And a big thank you to BCB, really, for giving me the key of the room for an entire day this year, to really allow to bring this education and the knowledge about the No and No category to you all. And a big thank you to Laura for opening the day with me. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And yeah, any question, come and have a chat.
All right, thank you.